Well, good afternoon and welcome to It's a New Day Today radio show. I'm your host, Dr. Keith, and we've got a real subject today. Every week we have a great subject. Today we've got an expert to talk to us, along with my co-host. I'm going to go right to it in just a second. I just got to say this. All the views and opinions of this show are not of WCEG. If there's a question from WCEG or something you didn't like, I said something you didn't like, whatever, you certainly can contact me direct. My email is always available. But again, if you contact me, be prepared for what may be said to you once you call me back. All right, so we get past that. Let me welcome back to the show my friends and my sisters. These women of God are great women of God. They're strong in the word, strong in what they do. My co-host, direct all the way from, I call her the country. I'm gonna start calling her the country prophetess. She's all the way from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and that's Dr. Michelle. Dr. Michelle, what's happening?
I would love to just say, hey, blessings up on everyone, and glad to be on the show today.
Thank you so much. We're going to talk about something you got going on Friday night, so we'll talk about that. And then all the way from Dallas, Texas, this great woman of God, she's a great preacher. Her mind she's so gifted in the mind, and I'm glad to have her to be one of our co-host, segment hosts. Let's welcome Dr. Karen Holly. God bless you, Dr. Holly.
Thank you, Dr. Farmer, and hello to everyone.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And then this being October this month is Domestic Violence Month. And I was trying to think, I don't know why I was trying to think about who I could get to come on and talk about it. And then my mind said, man, please, Katrina, find Katrina because she's busy. She hadn't been posting. And I was like, dang, Katina not posting. Where is she? So I remembered I had her cell phone. So I went to her cell phone and reached her. Let's welcome Katina Davis. Katina, how are you today?
I'm doing well. Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me back. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Glad to be in this space with you all.
Hey, it's a pleasure to have you on. So I don't want to take away from your introduction. First of all, tell the people what you do, and then tell them how you begin to do what you do.
Okay, absolutely. My name is Katina Davis. I am a domestic violence advocate. Some of that came from experience. Basically, I survived my own experience back in 2020 at the height of the pandemic, and I decided to take my experience and turn it into something positive to help others in our community. We have been operating for about 2 years with our nonprofit, and since we started up in April of 2020, we've been able to assist over 185 survivors enter safety with their children. So I'm very happy about everything that we've been able to accomplish and all the families that we've helped.
Good. Okay. So what is domestic violence?
It depends on, what you're referencing, but domestic violence is a pattern of events, whether it's physical or emotional, where the abuser, their aim is to take control over the partner. So it could be emotional, financial, or physical abuse that you're enduring with domestic violence.
Now, what I didn't tell you about the lady down in that corner, Dr. Karen Holly, is a clinical psychologist. So let's talk, Dr. Holly. What are some of the signs, and then continue, you can jump in. What are some of the signs of being a person or seeing a person or with a person that potentially has the potential for domestic violence?
Well, I'm going to let Katina tell you all those other pieces, but let me tell you the piece that shocks me the most about domestic violence that a lot of women miss, or men will miss, and that's the manipulation piece. When you are manipulated, many times you are not seeing that or classifying that as a form of abuse. And so the manipulation is first, and then the abuse follows it. And so if they can manipulate whatever it is that you're doing or thinking or how you're behaving, and then they have the control over it. And so a lot of people just miss that part. They overlook seeing that they have been manipulated and that some abuse is about to happen.
Absolutely.
Okay, Katina, what will be your comment to that?
As far as the red flags or what are the signs?
Yes. Yeah.
There are many signs. It just depends on the type of person that you're dealing with. You can have a narcissist on your hands. Some of that is love bombing. If there's an individual who's been pursuing you in the beginning and you're like, no, I don't want to do that. I'm good. And they're just relentless in their pursuit. And they come love bombing you with everything you can imagine, flowers, candy. And then when you get with their person, they're nothing like what they were in the beginning. Those are the signs. Control, where they don't want you to go anywhere independently of them. They have to be everywhere that you go. They want to control your being. They want to tell you what to wear, how to look, sometimes even how to talk or how to respond to people. There are victims who will look at their abuser first and they'll give them a head nod, letting them know that they can respond. So everything with domestic violence is centered around power and control. And if you are in a situation where you're starting to feel like someone else is taking control over you and you don't have any control over yourself, that is the red flag. And that is the beginning. You need to get out.
Wow.
That's good. That's good. That's good, Bishop, because I was going to ask her the question about controlling, because sometimes men and women both wants to control in the relationship. And I used to be abused. Yes, I was in one of those categories to where that it wasn't that he was like hard on me. He was just literally just control. Used to love to fight when I didn't do what he say. And some things just sound like box, but sound right to them. And it just used to be just like a fight. I used to have to go to the battered women's shelter, because it had got just that bad, and right after that, I want to say this is some women think just because a man, abuse them, that it's love, but it's not love, it's out of control.
Wow.
Comes from Dr. Michelle. That's a great point. That also comes from our environment and what we see, especially in the Black community. A lot of times we grow up in toxic environments where we see our parents arguing all the time or fighting, and that becomes a normalcy for us. So when we become adults and we get into these situations and these relationships, we're not looking at these things as red flags. We're not looking at this as a toxic relationship. We think that this is normal, like, oh, we're like mom and dad. We just argue like any other couple. Absolutely not. That is not normal. Nothing about that is normal.
That's right.
So, Dr. Holly, what makes a person abusive or have that type of personality?
Many times it's behind their own experiences, their own inadequacies, their insecurities, all of those things that have affected them before. And sometimes they just want to be in charge. They're not in charge anywhere else. They don't have any other position or any kind of power anywhere. And so they overcome whoever it is that's close to them or near them. And then they teach that person to be accepting of it and to be a participant in it.
Absolutely.
Wow. So we know the signs. Katina, what are some of the myths of domestic violence?
Some of the myths is that it only happens to women. That's not true either. There are some who are very abusive, and oftentimes with women, sometimes they're more emotionally abusive than they are physical, right? Because we know we're no match for a man. That's one of the biggest myths. Another thing that I heard is that if someone stays in the situation, then they must want to be beaten, abused. And that is just the biggest lie I've ever heard,
Yes.
to get out of these situations. And don't you think that we would just walk away? There are a lot of myths surrounding. And then another thing that I heard is that our sometimes the victims, we make them do it. There must be some type of reaction that you did, something you did to cause them to have that reaction. So all of those things are untrue.
Right.
Absolutely.
I just believe that it comes from a past.
From the past.
Yeah, it comes from the past.
So,
past relationship.
And Katina, I like your point when you talked about how women can be abusive as well. One of the stats is that a mother is the most abusive person in the household. Children are often more abused than anybody else in the household by the mother.
You're kidding me.
No, isn't that an awful piece to think
awful.
about? Yeah.
The mother. Now, I don't know, coming up, my mom was rough, tough. Maybe that was part of it, but you're telling me that mothers can easily, that which they birthed out could be abusive to a child.
Absolutely.
Sometimes it happens also unknowingly. A lot of that abuse is emotional. I'm noticing even with myself, I use myself as an example. I'm always on a healing journey, right? I'm never complete. I'm always learning. I'm always changing. And I've learned that the way that I grew up and things that were instilled in me and what I've gone through, I've unknowingly implemented those things into my parenting, but that doesn't make it right. I've had to do a lot of self-work and address the things that I picked up from my parents so that I can stop projecting those things onto my children. So she made a great point, because sometimes you don't know that you're being abusive.
Yeah, and one of the things that you think about when you think about that is that what I wouldn't say to someone else's child, don't say it to your own. Exactly. You're not going to walk up to another child and say, you're stupid, no good, and nothing. Why do you say that and give that information to your very own child, who you ought to love more than anybody else?
Exactly.
So that's our test. So if we use that as a barometer and say, would I say this to somebody else's child? If I won't say it to that kid, don't say it to mine.
Exactly.
Wow, that's amazing. Listen, I want each of you to go to your chat right there and type in your social media so she can download it onto your page. We want people to follow us. There may be some questions out there about this topic of domestic violence. Domestic violence, Katina taught me that some time ago when she's on the show. It comes in different forms. It's not just for women. There are some men that have been in domestic violence relationships. And I tell you, verbal abuse to me is the worst that you could ever feel. Why is that the case, Dr. Holly?
I don't know that it is necessarily the worst, but I know it is equally as damaging.
Oh God, it's equal.
Yeah, it's equally as damaging as physical abuse. Verbal abuse, and I see many patients now, they're in their 60s, and they're still talking about, a lady earlier today, and they're still talking about what happened to them when they were 10, what the mother said to them at 10 years old. And so we certainly want to get out of that pattern of using and being a part of verbal abuse, and doing that around our children, our spouse, whoever it is. We know and should be able to guard ourselves against that.
Wow. Dr. Robinson, like you want to say something?
I'm just out of it from hearing what she just said. I mean, I agree, because I've heard it many times.
Yeah. What we usually like to say is we like to talk a lot about physical abuse being bad, and we don't want to talk about how that verbal abuse is very damaging and very detrimental as well, and long lasting. Because physical abuse, people will say you'll get over that. Not that you necessarily do, because I want to point that out too. But we also know that verbal abuse is long lasting, and it becomes a part of the thoughts and the patterns that are repeated.
Statistically, the survivors have all stated that the emotional abuse is way more damaging than the physical abuse. I can attest to that as well. It left marks that nobody can see. And I battle with certain things in my mind every single day because of the emotional abuse that I endured. It took me 2 years to be able to still wear tight-fitting clothing and not think that I looked silly or that something was wrong with me because of the verbal and emotional abuse that I endured. So yes, it is much worse than physical.
Yeah, and one of the reasons that we say that too, Katina, is because of the recording. Whatever we hear, we began to record it. And so the recording goes on every day. So you don't lose your recording, where you may lose your scars, you may lose all the other pieces, but the recording, you keep playing.
That's right.
Okay, so y'all know I'm shaking my head because every time I get on with Katina, I want to cry because I don't understand. I don't understand. Honestly, I don't understand why, if you love something, that you got to beat it, you got to talk down to it. Why? I mean, there's times in relationships you may say something, but you're not trying to talk down or against. Why is this the case, Dr. Holly? You got to help. You got to help me out. You got to help me. I got to understand what this is. What is it?
Well, Katina probably knows more about it than I do. But let me just say, what I do see with people is that they want to be superior. And so the way to be superior is to talk you down and to make you feel your worthlessness. And one of the things that I love for people to say is that I'm worthy and I'm enough. And so when you do that, you start to erase all of the other pieces that have been thrown at you.
Wow. Katina, go ahead.
I agree. That's a big part of what we implement here with our program, with our nonprofit. We're very heavy on affirmations. I tell all of my clients, get up every day and affirm yourself. I don't care if you don't feel like it. Get yourself in the mirror and talk to yourself. I am worthy. Whatever you feel about yourself, self-talk, and eventually the real you will surface again. You will begin to feel like yourself again. You have to encourage and uplift yourself after going through domestic violence. It's a horrible time, honestly, and it takes a long road of healing. But you, as the survivor, you have to be committed to your healing and building yourself back up. The only person that's going to do it is you.
And then continue with those affirmations. You're absolutely right, and I love them. One of the things I ask them to do is to record it, so that they began to hear that in their heads. And then now you erase the old voice of what you heard. And now you're starting to hear your own voice. I asked them to do it breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and began to hear your 5 affirmations. And it will soak in. And now it soaks in my voice.
Exactly.
In my head, and I hear me.
What resources do you have, Katina, that you can tell us that they can put on the chat for people to go to, as far as either connecting with you or information that a person needs to have to talk about domestic violence? And if you're watching us today and you in the middle of something or a relationship, then you can contact Katina. Now, this is another thing. When you get to give information, I don't want to ask you something else, but go ahead.
Well, currently we have our website, www.themelaninmotherhood.org. And I have no shame when I say that my website is geared toward Black people. I am Black, I love my people, and we don't have enough resources in our communities for us. So every face you see on that website is Black. They look like you. I have a resource page where you can go and find a therapist that looks like you as well. It'll direct you to a website called Clinicians of Color, and you'll be able to enter your zip code and find a therapist of your liking. We also have the page of affirmations. You can download that PDF so you can keep it with you. You can put it on your phone and use those every day. We have our community outreach program. I do Zoom meetings once a month with various organizations throughout the county where I'm educating the kids on teen dating violence. We actually just came up with a safety planning workbook for teens that I actually am going to put on the website tonight. So we have that, and it's pretty much a packet broken down into 3 different parts: staying safe at school, staying safe at home, and staying safe emotionally. And it's a safety planning guide for our teenagers to have a space to come and say, hey, these are my people. This is my network of safety. This is where I still feel safe. And they have that in front of them. And of course, we do our community outreach events where we give back with the menstrual supplies. I know you saw that. We really started that. A lot of my survivors, they leave with just the clothes on their back and they don't have supplies. There was one young lady that I encountered. She was using a sock. So now we meet at South Cobb Library once a month, and we give out over 85 menstrual kits to people in the community, survivors, whomever needs it. So you can go to my website if you need any resources. Everything is there.
Melanin Motherhood, Melanin, MELANIN, motherhood.org, melaninmotherhood.org. Go to her website. Listen, if you're on here, you've never experienced it, but you want to contribute to what she does. She does an amazing job to help women of color across the country. That's it. They put it up. Yes. Thank you, Sister Katina. So let me ask this question. Not necessarily in relationships, maybe it's not husband, wife, husband, but are there other areas of abuse that you could, maybe like work, maybe in a friendship relationship? What type of other things happen in those type of relationships too? Because sometimes the boss is nasty, or whether male or female, they're nasty. How do you deal with all that kind of stuff?
I'm the wrong person to ask. God is still working on me in that area. But normally, honestly, you got to take a second and regather yourself, regroup, and just say, hey, is it worth it? Is it worth it for this person to get this reaction out of me? What is it that I want to put out into the universe every day? If I, go off on this person or tell them about themselves, is that the image that I want people to have of me? You know what I'm saying? I think at the end of the day, you just have to think about who you are and the mark that you want to leave on this world.
Wow. Any comments from co-hosts? Comments? No. Dr. Holly?
No, I think that's very thorough. And my comment is, I just want to congratulate you, Katina, for what you're doing. It's absolutely phenomenal and so needed in every community. I know Dallas, we have one African-American woman who works very diligently in this area, but we just don't have enough. And she doesn't have enough resources and all of that. And so I want to just thank you for what you're doing and the difference that you're making in 180 families. That's powerful.
That's powerful.
That's powerful.
Yes.
That's generational wealth that you're giving.
Yes.
That is a gift, an inheritance. And I thank you for giving that to our people.
Yeah.
We also just posted the national domestic violence numbers, 800 number that's just been posted onto the website and onto what you're looking at now. You can call that number. What is the percentage of, before I say, let me say how I want to word it. Domestic violence, what's the percentage of people that don't get out and end up committing suicide versus those that get out and continue with their life?
So I don't really have those statistics. They are ever changing. But I can tell you that there has been a 49% increase in family violence cases here in Georgia from 2020 to 2021. And firearms were the number one cause of death in 85% of those family violence fatalities. So it's constantly increasing. Things have increased a lot since the pandemic. And one is that the inflation, the stresses of everyday life are exacerbating domestic violence, and is causing an uptick in the occurrences that we're seeing in the Black community. We need more safe spaces, just like we have the, what you call it, the neighborhood watch. We can do the same thing with domestic violence. Domestic violence has always been a thing where it's so hushed and everybody just minds their business, but your neighbor is your business. It is absolutely your business to get involved. And I am not saying insert yourself in the middle of a dispute. That's not what I'm saying at all. But you can call the police. The next time you see them by themselves, you can say, hey, are you okay? I got this pamphlet for you. Take this. Hey, are you okay? Let's set up a plan. I want to help you get out. Everybody has to stop just minding their business. That's the problem.
Whoa. Dr. Holly, what you said about now? You know me. Because I think this is deja vu, because I said this before. In life, my mother said, because my mom raised me as a single parent, and father was not there, and he died when I was 13. But she always said, what goes on in your house, stay in your house. So many people have been, in my era, have been brought up like that, but it's not time for certain things. You need to talk. So there's times people talk. Why don't they talk? Why is it that nobody will say, hey, I really want to get out of this situation? And you pastors, shame on you. Shame on you. Let me do shame on you that if you know somebody in a domestic violence relationship and you tell them they shouldn't get divorced, tell them that's wrong. Why would I stay with somebody if I'm being verbally abused? That's wrong. Why do we do stuff that's so, oh my God, that's so wrong. Why would a pastor tell you to stay there? Because you don't want them to be divorced. That's foolish. And pastors, you don't know the conversation. If a person's been verbally abused and you talk, well, you can work it out. Okay. That doesn't make sense to me. It's so backwards. This thing is so backwards that we need to, what can we do? That's my question. What can we do?
Having these conversations, we keep bringing it to the forefront. That's really all we can do. We need more help from the government. We need more funding for victim relocation. And I'm going to tell you, with that statistic that you asked about who makes it out and who doesn't, 9 times out of 10, when the survivor makes it out, the abuser comes back. Most of the time, that situation becomes fatal. And it's because there aren't enough resources for victim relocation. When they make it out, they've gone to aunt's house, sister's house, or moved to another county over. That's not enough. We need victim relocation services. That's what we need. And we need the funding for it.
Okay, doctor, help me out. The person's in a domestic violence relationship, is verbal and physical. they get out for a day or two, but that person can talk to them into coming back. What is that called?
It's called the cycle of abuse.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It is. It is. And the other thing is that, and I know that you do it, I'm sure, is telling them about when they're in those situations to start gathering their documents, have a safe place that they leave those documents so that if they do get out, they'll have that as a start. Because many times the women don't have that, or men, they don't have any of those things. And so sometimes they'll say, I'm going back to get that. Well, that's just an awful reason to be going back. You need to have already taken those things away from your home. And then the other thing about the church, and this is going to be, because I'm glad you have pastors that are listening on here. But the thing about that is, I want to caution them about re-victimizing the victim. Because when the victim comes to them, then what they began to do is see an opportunity. And so we want to make sure that they are clear of not doing that. Don't re-victimize and don't bring her into another situation. So because the church ought to be the one place that we can trust. And so if they're going there for trust and to rebuild and to be better, they shouldn't be victimized when they show up in your office behind closed doors.
That's very important.
That's just my 2 cents.
That's good. That's good though. We have to hear that because it's very important to know that. There's a comment on Facebook. We need court support and law enforcement support as well.
That's the question I want to ask Sister Katina, is that now the law does not play with domestic violence. You get served years for that. I mean, being abused, they don't play it. If they come out and it has been abused, in the house, you're going to jail. You flat down going to jail because the law doesn't even play it. I mean, here in my city, they don't. And not let children be in the house while domestic violence is going on. That's a serious charge.
Well, I beg to differ. It's not like that everywhere. A lot of times the judicial systems, they straight fail the victims. They failed me. I can attest to that personally. There was a young lady who I assisted, her family. Her name was Makia Montgomery, and she was murdered here in DeKalb County while her daughter's father had an ankle monitor on his leg for prior domestic violence charges against her. How do you come to the child's school with an ankle monitor on your leg and commit a murder? He should have never been near her in the first place. Should he have been let back out on the streets again? He shot her previously on a previous occasion and they let him back out. So when you say that they don't play with that, I think it depends on where you are. It depends on if the officers care about your job. It depends on what you look like. It depends on what color you are. There are a lot of factors that play into that, and they fail us time and time and time again. It's unacceptable. Bail and bond should be revoked if there are any type of domestic violence charges. It's a very serious offense, and they should not be let back on the streets to harm someone else or victimize the victim again. And it happens every day.
Anybody else? I was just going to say before y'all thinking, we need to find, Katina, other domestic violence chapters in other cities, other states. Like there's one in Louisiana and Baton Rouge, one in Dallas, and you guys need to come together, have a domestic violence conference or something, and then approach the government. It's time, because because you hear stuff like that. Many times on her page, this is what gets me, is that Katina will post it on her social media page, and I look at it, you see these beautiful women, they've been abused, they're dead. I mean, I'm just like, what is going on? Why? How can we stop? What can we do to stop this factor? If a person, let me just keep on, because I was going to say something.
And Dr. Farmer, what's interesting about that is that most of those young ladies you have seen me posted, they have applied for TPOs before. If you don't know what a TPO is, that's a temporary protective order. They filed for restraining orders before. A lot of these young ladies you see me post, they have asked for help and they've gone to the people that they were supposed to for the help, and they're still not here with us anymore. That says a lot. It's unacceptable.
See, I'm talking about this. That's why when I approached this subject, it took me I was going to do it at the beginning of the month, but it took me some time, because every time I have this conversation with her, I get angry afterwards because we're not giving help. It's not just in women and men, it's in all type of relationships, whether you gay or straight, whatever the case is, they're still going on. How can we as people look out for our people and help one another? You're not telling us that you need help. You're in a gay relationship and that person is beating you. That's not the relationship. You get out. Find somewhere to go. You're in a marriage and the person is verbal. They're verbally abusing you. What do? Run, and don't care what people say. Keep moving. Take whatever you can and go. Because if you stay there, you're never going to be the whole factor that you're supposed to be. Because you're going to be thinking all the time that person beat me because it's a mind thing that goes on in this situation. It becomes your mind situation, and you're not going to live. You're not going to get out like that. Dr. Holly. Go ahead.
But you need support. You have to have some family support. You have to have support from friends. It's not that easy. People have to be welcoming when you come and say, hey, this is what I'm going through. Not, oh, well, you went back. He can't be hurting you all that bad. Oh, I tried to help you last time. I don't want to get involved. Well, what did you do? All of this, none of those responses help. When people come to you and say, hey, I need help, your response should be, okay, how can I help? What would you like me to do? What information do you need? It doesn't matter how many times they have gone back. It's a mental thing. That abuse has made them think that there is no one else in the world that cares about them or that loves them but them. And I know you'll ask, well, why would you believe that? A lot of young ladies, they don't have familial support. That man is all they had. So if they're telling you, I'm the only person that cares about you, guess what? They're going to believe it. They have had no one. So if you're out there and you're in that situation, I'm telling you right now, you don't deserve that. You are worthy of love that does not hurt. You are worthy of everything good in this life that you desire, and you will get it. Don't let nobody sit there and tear you down and make you feel like you're nothing. Nobody has the right to do that. Nobody. And don't allow them. I am here. Hit me any time of the day or night. Email. My email is kdavis@themelaninmotherhood.org. I have a van that I use just for survivor pickup. If you call me and say, hey, I need help, I'm coming to get you. I don't care if I have to do it 2 or 3 times. I'm coming to get you. Call me, email me. I will help you.
Wow. Katina, how did you get out?
I fought my way out. It was going to be him or me at that point. You know, it was just time. It was time. Enough.
You fought your way out.
Yes, I was arrested. I was arrested and charged with battery. He was not arrested at that time. But I fought my way out. Everything came to a head because I fought my way out.
That's almost sounding like Dr. Michelle, you experienced, how did you get out?
Oh my God, got tired. Somebody was going to stay here. Somebody was going to leave here. Abuse is like, you either stay in or get out.
And you ran for your life, and you are now an international national prophetess doing what the work of the Lord. What if you had stayed there and not, how many lives would be affected if you had stayed there and not do what God would have you to do?
Oh God.
Right. Think about it. That's what I'm saying. Some of y'all it's so much God has in store for you, and you I feel a tear coming. You're locked in this relationship and you got to get out. You got to get out. Katina, put your number up there so they can contact you. Get out. I hear my grandmother say, get the HEL double hockey stick out now. Go now. Leave. You got to go. Because you're not going to be all that you can be. Listen, I'm a survivor of domestic violence. My mom at a younger age said some things to me because of my father's relationship with her. So that hurt me. But when I see now verbal abuse in a relationship, I'm going the other way. I don't give a who say I shouldn't go. I'm gone. I'm not going to be in it. Because that stuff hurts, and that's lingering hurt. So I'm telling you, get out. Dr. Karen, give us some advice on how to get out.
And let me say this too, Dr. Farmer. One of the things about all of this is that when women stay, because they will say that they're staying on behalf of the children, it is the most detrimental thing that you can do to a child. So don't say you're staying for the children. You're absolutely not. And if you are, you shouldn't. So we want to really encourage them to get out. But what I'd like to see in all of this is some kind of elementary school program that teaches girls and boys about behavior and what we should do and how we should treat one another. I just feel like I need to write a module, because that's where we need a program before any of this gets blown out of place. Because what I know about this is that some of these men have never been taught. And what they've been taught has been the wrong language and the wrong information. And so they're following patterns of men that they sit around and hear talk about all of that. So we need to get out of that, and we need to start it much earlier. By the time they're grown and they're abusing, I know there are programs for all of that, but we need to start them way earlier than that, girls and boys. And the girls need to know about getting out of it. When you recognize it and see those red flags, begin to go.
Jeez.
So everybody needs that information, and they need it much sooner.
Amen.
So give us the red flags again, Katina, because somebody just turned on. This is red flags. When you see these red flags, it's time to say bye-bye. Katina, what are the red flags?
Love bombing, overloading you with gifts, control, isolation, changing the way you talk, the way you dress. If you can't even go get your nails done and get a pedicure without him or her, that's a problem. All of those things, when it starts feeling like they're trying to control you and take control of your whole world, that is your red flag. You need to get out.
Jesus.
I'm stuck. I don't know what to say now. I'm stuck.
And when they say, Katina, about how they're just jealous, some people think jealousy is a great piece in a relationship.
Jealous of
and
what?
They don't understand that as a red flag.
Jealous of what?
Everything, they just tell you that. And if you're able to connect the dots, you'll see it's not jealousy at all.
Also, poor behavior as far as their impulsivity. If you guys are having an argument and they throwing things and they flipping stuff off of the counters, those are red flags as well, because the next time it's going to be your face. It's going to be something on your body that they're hitting, or maybe even throwing you across the room. If they can't control themselves to the point where they're destroying things, that's a red flag. They have an anger problem, and they will hit you, and they're going to hit you. Not they will, they're going to hit you.
One of the things we always say is all behavior escalates. So if it's here today, just know it's going to escalate.
What other signs do you need?
Shouldn't need anything else.
you got enough signs. You now become a statistic. I hate to even know what is the number of relationships that are involved in domestic violence across this country. I'd hate to even know that number.
It's hard to gauge, but I'll tell you that there has been, I think, 114,000 more calls into the crisis centers at the start of the pandemic than there were before. So like I said, I think that situation just exacerbated a lot of untreated mental health issues within people. And now there's a lot of displaced anger, and they don't know where to put that but on each other. There's a lot of stress out here in this world, and people are succumbing to that stress, unfortunately. There has been an uptick in murder suicides, people killing not just them and the spouse, but the babies too.
Yeah.
I see these things every day, and it's very disturbing. So if you have a family member that you know is in an abusive relationship, you can call the domestic violence hotline yourself and come up with a safety plan, and then present that to your loved one. They don't have to be the one to call. And again, the number is 1-800-799-SAFE. And everything is 100% anonymous. You can call them and say, hey, I would like to develop a safety plan for my loved one. And you keep that to yourself. You don't need to go broadcasting it and telling everybody. It's kind of a hush-hush type of thing, but you need to keep it ready and available to share that with your loved one to help them get out.
Black church, African-American church, African-American ministry, whatever you call yourself, it's time. Now, this is so important. That's how you and I have talked about this before. We can dance, shout, speak in tongues, but we can't sit down and talk about these type of things to help the people. That's so backwards. We're dealing with the spiritual aspect, but the person still has a mind and a body. There needs to be some conversation beyond that pulpit that's saying, okay, let me tell you some stuff. Maybe it's a Sunday that it's got to be something. When will we ever do that to really recognize that we got to go beyond the spirit? You shouting and you shouting and go home and you've been domestically beat up and verbally abused.
Mm-hmm.
That's not good.
And sometimes we even see it at church. We see signs and symptoms of it, and we don't deal with it. We just ignore it.
What's the sign?
It's right there. It's in our face, and we ignore it.
The hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And there's one more thing I want to add with this too. Mothers, y'all have to take accountability for your sons, whether they're grown or not. If that woman calls you and say, hey, your son is putting his hands on me, your son is doing this, that, and the third, it is your obligation to get involved. You don't just turn a blind eye like it's her problem now. No, he is your problem. You raised that boy. You need to step in and take some corrective action and let him know that what he's doing is not right. Get your son some help. Don't leave that woman in that situation to defend herself, because guess what? In the end, you will be just as much responsible as he is, because she told you. Take some accountability and get involved. That's not okay.
Dr. Michelle, at this point, I need you to unmute yourself. I want you to pray. You're muted, Doc. I'm gonna have Katina. I'm gonna have you to pray, Dr. Michelle, for the people that's involved in it, and then some people coming out of it. I want you to pray a good prayer for that. Then I'm on Dr. Holly to come back and speak to the women. I know I've got about 15 minutes, but I want to do this now. And I want Dr. Karen to come back and speak to those women from the clinical aspect of it, of what they need to do. And then Katina is going to spend the time really just talking to them from her heart and from her experience to help you. This show is not about me. It's about you being who you're supposed to be, and you being blessed, and you being encouraged, and you making sure that you come out of something that you're in. That's the whole reason why we're talking about this, because you in it. If somebody was not in it, I never would have got to, because Domestic Violence Month, I would have skipped over it because I didn't want to talk about it. But I knew that I had to talk about it because you in it. So that's why we're doing what we're doing. Dr. Michelle, pray. Dr. Karen, come back and give some words on it. And then Katina going to close us out with the last few, whatever minutes she take. And then we'll come back after that. Go ahead, Dr. Michelle.
Father, we thank you right now. We ask you to strengthen men, strengthen women's right now. We ask you, Father, that you step in and give them strength. Those that are weak, those that are blind, we ask you to step in, speak in their ear, God, because you're not the author of confusion.
Hallelujah.
You are of peace. Send your peace to everyone house that is in an abusive relationship, in domestic relationship. And Father, as we hear your voice, we shall hearken unto you. And Father, let your will be done, and let it be done in your name. Step in every family, cover them right now. Put a defense around them, Father, in the name of Jesus. And we're going to say yes to your will, and let your will be done in Jesus' name.
Amen.
Amen. Amen. Amen. Thank you, Dr. Michelle. Beautiful, beautiful prayer. I want to say to those women that there's so much help. I know help is limited, but there's a lot of help available to you. So I want them to be sure and go out and get the professional help that they need as well. So go to those places, start reporting, start talking about it, start getting around people that can help you, and know that you can get out, you can survive, and you can make it. Don't feel like he's it. He's your all. Because if you feel like that, you'll continue to go back. And we keep talking about that love bombing and those relationships of honeymooning and all of that. And you go back and there's that period. That period is short-lived. You need to live beyond that.
Absolutely.
Katina?
Amen.
I don't have anything. These beautiful ladies have taken the words right out of my mouth. I just want you to know that you deserve more than what you're receiving. And there are organizations that are out here that can help you. If you are in Georgia, feel free to follow me on Instagram at the.melaninmotherhood. We are also on Facebook at The Melanin Motherhood. I'm mostly all the time replying to the DMs. If it's not me, it's my youth liaison. But if you need help, we will assist you.
Thank you so much. Again, tell people how they can reach you.
I'm on Instagram at the.melaninmotherhood. And on Facebook at The Melanin Motherhood. I've also written a book. It is my survivor story, but it's also meant to be a guide for men and women who are still in that situation, to help you navigate your way through that. It's called It's Okay to Be Broken. Just know you can't stay there. And that is available on Amazon as well as Barnes and Noble.
That's rich. It's okay to be broken. Just don't stop. Being with us there. We still got about 15 minutes. I'm going to go over to Dr. Holly, back to Dr. Holly to talk about her. You know, she deals with letters. Katina, you can stay with us. She deals with letters and numbers and all that. I want you to see what she got for us today.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Farmer. I received a letter and it says, Dear Dr. Holly, my best friend has fallen on hard times. She lost her job and quickly went through her savings and lost her apartment. I allowed her to move in with me until she gets herself together. Although she has a child and I have none, and she puts in quotes, on purpose, I did not hesitate to let her move in with me because she did it for me many years ago. Well, the problem I'm having with her is that she has a 6-year-old child who destroys everything. She doesn't tell her stop or no, and doesn't want me to do it either. And she has destroyed several things in my home. I don't want to criticize her parenting, but I absolutely want to go against her beliefs and tell this little girl stop and no. How should I handle this situation before it blows up and I ask her to leave?
I'm looking in my room so I can find a belt. That's what it seems.
Well, Dr. Key, I didn't use the letter B, because if I did, I would have said belt. But I used the letter C instead. And so I said that there are 6 things that they need to deal with. One is to know that this is a crisis. A crisis is defined as intense difficulty, trouble, or danger. And I think they're headed for all of that. And then I said, 2, that they need to clear some things. She needs to have some measurable goals. You know, are you going to be gone in 6 months? What are we going to have? What are we going to do? Set that up very, very early. And then I want her to have some compassion for, well, the biggest compassion, I think, is for their relationship, to try to keep it intact, to try to, they've been friends a long time. They need to be able to stay friends. So value that relationship. For whatever you say or do, know that you want to value that. Okay. And then I said that this is a situation about character, because what the lady is doing is she's not teaching her daughter about character. Character sets up limitations and boundaries for you. And so she needs to be talking to her daughter about those kind of things. And one thing we know for sure, wherever you go, there are some rules, and she needs to be following some rules. And so when you start character development, you begin to talk about rules and how we behave and what we do and what kind of things are acceptable and those things that are unacceptable. And then I want her to check herself, make sure that the letter right, make sure that she doesn't have a hypersensitivity going on, that she is not hypersensitive about the sound and, you know, just having a child around, her space invaded, because that could be part of it and not so much the child herself. And then finally, I want them to sit down and talk about what choices they have. Before anything else goes on, what are our choices? And how do we set all of that up for one another? So kind of do that. And I think they can come out of it, still friends, and with a child learning what she needs to know, because there's a lot for her to learn in this situation as well.
Oof.
That was a word, Dr. Holly.
Yes, it is.
That's a good word, Dr. Yes, because I got the belt. I'm young, but I'm old school because it worked. You know, we didn't stop. We stopped. My grandmother would say, "You put a child in the corner and don't say nothing to them and don't whoop them. They're gonna come out of that corner boxing your head." So listen, you gotta know how to deal with them. And I thank you, Dr. Hyde, for that. I'm not gonna get my opinion on that. But listen, Dr. Michelle, you got a conference coming up this coming Friday. As you were going to be in Atlanta, and such a hard for the people of God. You changed it to do it online. Tell the people how they can go get that. And then the thing about this conference is, it's only $10. Why would you do such a thing?
That is so good. I mean, my sisters say, I am so glad that you are, going to have it on Eventbrite, which is virtual. You can go on Eventbrite under Michelle Robinson Global and Supporters Partners Conference. It is for supporters. It is for partners, those that are part up with me and those that support me. And it will be tomorrow night. I will be coming live on Zoom. So when you register tonight and in the morning, we will have Bishop Foreman, if you can put it up there, is Michelle Robinson Global and Partner Supporters Conference. We will be on Zoom. The ticket is $10. If you can go on Eventbrite, those that are listening to me, the sound of my voice, you can go there. And I promise you, it is going to be good. A rhema word from heaven, from God. When it comes down to we, as us American people, supporting one another and being a partner of one another. The invitation is out to those that who hear. You're able to go on Eventbrite and register. It's $10.
That's good. She's going to prophesy. She's going to preach. She's a great prophet. Michelle Robinson Global Partners Conference. Michelle Robinson Global Partners and Supporters Conference on Eventbrite. That's what it is. It's tomorrow night in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm going to be there along with Pastor Thomas Ware and some other people. I'll be sitting there and getting that word from the Lord as well. Somebody just made a comment on Facebook. You can't beat other people's children. That's what happened. Y'all don't know nothing about that, because when I was coming up, if you did something out in the street, the neighbors would tear your hiney up, go tell your mother or father, and you get another whipping. So we didn't got too protective of our children. Now you taking guns to school and beating up the teachers and smacking all this stuff that happened. You didn't spoil the child and you inspired the ride. So now they're gonna take over. That's what had happened. So that's your Facebook response, okay? Dr. Michelle, because somebody just responded to me. You can't. I didn't say beat him. I said whip him. There's a difference between beating and whipping, isn't it? All these mothers saying nothing.
The village is gone.
Oh my God!
Talking about the village.
Yes, it's gone. Where can we get it back? Can we ever get it back?
I don't think the village is going to return. I don't think it will return. But I tell you one thing though, you can create your own village.
That's cool.
You can create your village.
Yeah,
if you have children, create a village for them, because they do need some discipline in some form, whatever your form is. Because I don't want to be on here as a psychotherapist talking about beating nobody. But let me just say this: whatever your form is, and however you discipline, you need a village to surround that and to be a part of that, and to make sure that happens, and that you are making a productive child and citizen for the world.
And you wonder about when you need a babysitter, nobody babysit your child. That's why.
Right.
That's why they don't want their house tore up. Okay, she telling me stop. Okay, Miss Penny's the boss, so I'll stop. So Katina, as how can people reach you?
Instagram, the.melanin motherhood. We are on Facebook, the Melanin Motherhood. And if you need help, safety planning, getting out of a relationship, you can go to our www.themelaninmotherhood.org/ask for help.
Now, okay, this book. Tell us about this book. Broken, but what?
It's okay to be broken. Just know you can't stay there.
Give me 3 points of that book.
1 point is to help you find your way back to yourself. The second one is a guide out of domestic violence. And the third is addressing unknown traumas within yourself that you didn't know you.
Ooh.
It's good.
Wait a minute here.
That is good.
Go get the book.
That number 3, addressing unknown traumas in yourself.
Yes.
So one of the ways of getting out totally is you got to address things in yourself as well.
Absolutely, because something attracted you to that person in the first place.
Woo. Oh, you open a whole nother can of worms.
Am I right, Dr. Holly?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And you are on it by addressing that and by even mentioning that. So thank you for that.
Yes, ma'am.
Wow.
I'm going to order my book.
Me too. I want to see what it's about. And then you got, so here's, okay, so we out now, you've addressed these issues, and then you can find love again.
Absolutely. Once you fix what's wrong with you, a lot of people say, I'm never going to fall in love. but you will. It's not the time. You have to fix what's wrong with you so that you can attract the right person. And not only that, so you don't mess up that situation, end up messing up that person. You got to fix you first.
Dr.
And
Michelle,
know that you are lovable. Know that
Absolutely.
say that again, Dr. Holly. Know that you what?
Know that you are lovable, that you can give love and receive love. So know that you are getting yourself toward that.
Absolutely.
You don't want to shut down and close yourself off from love. I hear a lot of women say that. I'm never going to love again. Well, that wasn't what was going on before.
Exactly.
You may not have ever loved. Now's your time.
And that's what I learned through that experience. Everything I thought was love, it was not. And I learned how to love correctly after this experience.
Mm-hmm.
After this experience, you learn how to love correctly.
Yes.
So even though it's a trauma, even though it's tragic, it still was a lesson.
Absolutely. You won't come out the same person you were, but you will come out a better version of yourself if you heal the right way.
Mm-hmm. You will become whole again.
Absolutely.
You've been fragmented. You'll become whole again. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. So you go in whole, you get fragmented, you come out fragmented, but you can become whole again. Mm-hmm. So that, what you tell me is that there's hope.
For sure.
Oh, yeah. And keep it alive. Keep hope alive.
You can't do it alone. You please get a therapist. You cannot do it alone.
Please, oh, thank you.
To help guide you through this situation. Therapy is not a bad word.
Amen.
It's alone.
Y'all hear that? That's
and tell the church that therapy is not a bad
word. So important. So important to the church. We can shout, dance, but there's nothing wrong with having somebody to talk to. And it doesn't necessarily have to be. And I don't suggest you talk to your pastor, because you know what? I think that you need to really talk to someone who is like Dr. Holly, clinical psychologist, because that is the person who has studied these issues and can help with the mind. The pastor's going to talk to you about spiritual. Nothing wrong with talking about the spiritual, but that physical, mental got to be tapped as well.
Amen.
That is so, wow.
And you know, one of the things that I say is that everybody can't fix everything. You know, it's like me. I can't fix your car. I'm not a mechanic. Don't let me under your hood. And so you don't want to do that. So the same thing when we're talking about you're going to go in and help them and guide them through it. If you don't have any tools, and Katina has many tools, and she's talked about a whole bunch of them today, but most people aren't armed with that. So they don't have tools. And so they're giving out bad advice and fixing some stuff that they don't even know what they're talking about. And that's the danger in that. And they keep people in dangerous situations.
But they said the word is good for every issue.
The word is good for every issue. However, we need some practical pieces. There's some practical stuff that we need to be doing right now. So if I'm just reading the word and I'm not doing anything and I'm not practicing anything that will keep me out of danger, then I might just be sitting there in danger. So it doesn't mean that we don't read the word, but we also get the help that we need.
Wow.
It's twofold. It is like a cocktail. So you need a cocktail. You need prayer and you also need therapy.
Yes.
Use the cocktail.
Yeah.
Prayer and therapy, two things get you, help you in the situation. We think,
and sometimes, let me add in, sometimes medication, because I want to stop us from that too, from always talking about when somebody's prescribing medication in treatment, not streets, but in treatment, then, and we monitor it ourselves as well as the clinician, the provider, then we can get a lot of treatment that we need.
See, that's what I'm talking about. Katina, thank you so much for being with us today. Go get her book. Go get her book.
Yes.
Oh my God. Katina Davis, go to follow her on social media. She's the bomb diggity when it comes to this topic. She will help you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Michelle. We'll see you tomorrow. Listen, the number's on the screen, 1-800-799-SAFE, 1-800-799-SAFE. That's 723. You can call the number right now as we get ready to go. I am so excited to have Dr. Hollywood. She's just her brain is so, oh my God. So a woman of wisdom. Thank you for being with us. We got to get out of here. Until next time, we'll see you. It's a new day today. I'm Dr. Keith. Peace.